Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push one. All right, I got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 392. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. I wanted to take the time, due to all the events that has transpired this week. I'm not going to reiterate all the things that have happened, but what I will say is it will be irresponsible, culturally irresponsible for me as a cybersecurity person to not address this issue at its head. So I'm not going to be on here long. If anybody wants to join the panel, just make sure you push a 2 in the chat or something to that effect. What has happened the last 48 hours or the last 24 hours is it's despicable. And I'm going to go over some of the documentation that I do have. I haven't put it in the description beneath the video because I just haven't done it. I'm lazy. So let me just get to this real quick. Tougher California laws protect victims of digital harassment. Expand this out real quick. There was a time when harassment was essentially confined to unwanted phone calls, letters, or in-person visits. But in today's computerized world, harassers have a variety of ways to make life miserable for someone, whether it's via Facebook, Twitter, or a cell phone, video recorder, or other digital device. That's what prompted changes in California's civil and penal codes that identify and protect victims of digital harassment. On January 1st, Civil Section 1708.8 and Penal Code Sections 422 and 646.9 went into effect, identifying cyberstalking as a crime and enforcing penalties of $1,000, a fine, a year of imprisonment in a county jail, or both. There is a major step forward in protecting innocent victims of divorce or separation, said Ron Supanik, a family law attorney and the founder of The Law Collaborative, a Woodland Hills-based law firm that specializes in divorce mediation and child custody cases, or mediation in child custody cases, by prohibiting and restraining parties from engaging in a pattern of conduct intended to harass, alarm, and intimidate family members or cause them to be fearful for their life. These laws now provide for the welfare and safety of innocent victims, often women and children of a divorce, and create a legal means to fight back. Supanik said his clients frequently are the target of cyber intimidation by their spouses in an attempt to induce fear. But until now, there hasn't been an effective way to address the behavior. As with any law practice, we see a certain number of people with personality disorders. That's the only way I can describe it, he said. There are some really crazy people out there who do some really crazy things. Supanik cited one of his more unusual cases as an example. I handled a case where a man's wife was having an affair, he said. He sent his preteen daughters messages about this and told them not to have any physical contact with their mother because they could get a sexually transmitted disease. This was done via emails and text, and he was including other people on those transmissions. He was trying to humiliate and demean her in every way he could. A judge ultimately ruled on it, calling it spousal and child abuse. These days, people can get on Facebook and Twitter. There are so many laws, so many ways to broadcast this stuff. Supanik said, it's like the old chalkboard in the classroom has become the chalkboard in the sky. A 2014 survey from the Pew Research Center reveals that 73% of adult internet users have seen someone harassed online, and 40% have personally experienced it. The center noted two distinct but overlapping categories of online harassment. The first includes name calling and embarrassment. That's a layer of annoyance so common that those who see or experience it say they often ignore it, the survey said. The second category of harassment targets a smaller segment of the online public, but it's far more serious, often involving physical threats, stalking, harassment over a sustained period of time, and sexual harassment. In broad trends, the data show that men are more likely to experience name calling and embarrassment, while young women are particularly vulnerable to sexual harassment and stalking, the survey said. Supanik figures California's newly toughened laws will serve as a deterrent to people who are inclined to engage in digital harassment. If people start getting fired or start getting fined or put in jail, it will hopefully wake them up to a higher level of awareness, he said. When they realize this could cost them money or their freedom, it should make a difference. So California put this into play, and I'm bringing up California because the victim here is in California. So let me jump to California Penal Code 646.9, cyberstalking. Let me expand this out so you all can read this along with me. 646.9, any person who willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly follows or willfully and maliciously harasses another person and who makes a credible threat with the intent to place that person in reasonable fear for his or her safety or the safety of his or her immediate family is guilty of the crime of stalking, punishable by imprisonment in a county jail for not more than 1 year, or by a fine of not more than $1,000, or by both that fine in imprisonment, or by the imprisonment in the state prison. Any person who violates subdivision A, when there is a temporary restraining order, injunction, or any other court order in effect prohibiting the behavior described in subdivision A against the same party, shall be punished by imprisonment in the state prison for 2, 3, or 4 years. Every person who, after having been convicted of a felony under section 273.5, 273.6, or 422, commits a violation of subdivision A, shall be punished by imprisonment in the county jail for no more than 1 year, or by a fine of not more than $1,000, or by both that fine and imprisonment, or by imprisonment in the state prison for 2, 3, or 5 years. In addition to the penalties provided in this section, the sentencing court may order a person convicted of a felony under this section to register as a sex offender pursuant to subparagraph E of paragraph 2 of subdivision A of section 290. For the purposes of this section, harasses means engages in knowing and willful course of conduct directed at a specific person that seriously alarms, annoys, torments, or terrorizes the person, and that serves no legitimate purpose. For the purposes of this section, course of conduct means two or more acts occurring over a period of time, however short, evidencing a continuity of purpose. Constitutionally protected activity is not included with the meaning of course of conduct. For the purposes of this section, credible threat means a verbal or written threat, including that performed through the use of an electronic communication device, or a threat implied by a pattern of conduct, or a combination of verbal, written, or electronically communicated statements and conduct made with the intent to place the person that is the target of the threat in reasonable fear for his or her safety or the safety of his or her family, and made with the apparent ability to carry out the threat so as to cause the person who is the target of the threat to reasonably fear for his or her safety. For the purposes of this section, the term electronic communication device includes, but is not limited to, telephones, cellular phones, computers, video recorders, fax machines, or pagers. Electronic communication has the same meaning as the term defined in subsection 12 of section 2510 of Title 18 of the United States Code. This section shall not apply to conduct that occurs during the labor picketing. If probation is granted or the execution or imposition of a sentence is suspended for any person convicted under this section, it shall be a condition of probation that the person participate in counseling as designated by the court. However, the court, upon a showing of good cause, may find that the counseling requirement shall not be imposed. The sentencing court also shall consider issuing an order of restraining the defendant from any contact with the victim that may be valid for up to 10 years. As determined by the court, it is the intent of the legislature that the length of any restraining order be based upon the seriousness of the facts before the court, the probability of future violations, and the safety of the victim and his or her immediate family. For purposes of this section, immediate family means any spouse, parent, child, any person related by consanguinity or resides in the household, or who within the prior 6 months regularly resided in the household. The court shall consider whether the defendant would benefit from the treatment pursuant to section 2684. If it is determined to be appropriate, the court shall recommend that the Department of Corrections make a certification as provided in section 2684. Upon the certification, the defendant shall be evaluated and transferred to the appropriate hospital for treatment pursuant to section 2684. So, why am I bringing this up? Famous and infamous Black Gnostic Speaks daughter was exposed yesterday via social media. Now, why is this important? Both Black Gnostic, his daughter, and the defendant is reside in California. So California Penal Code 646.9 actually applies to this situation that's happening right now. And the actions that have transpired the last 24 hours, the last 36 hours, falls under this penal code. Let me give me 1 second. All right. Back to what I was saying. Why this is important is because these individuals all live in the same state, and so the laws apply to them. It applies to the defendant, GMT. it's one thing to challenge somebody in the debate, but when you start exposing people via doxing, doxing falls under Penal Code 646.9. When you start doing things like that, you are now in contempt of the court. So what's happening here is that there needs to be some form of charges pressed against somebody in this situation. Had I been Black Nasser Speak, I would actually file a civil case against this individual. Let me jump to the next article real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time on here. All right, this one is from the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse. Online harassment and cyberstalking. What is online harassment? Online harassment may involve threatening or harassing emails, instant messages, or posting information online. It targets a specific person either by directly contacting them or by disseminating their personal information, causing them distress, fear, and anger. Okay, that's doxing in a nutshell. The dissemination of their personally identifiable information, PII, or sensitive information. Cyberstalking is a type of online harassment that involves using electronic means to stalk a victim and generally refers to a pattern of threatening or malicious behaviors. All states have anti-stalking laws, but the legal definition varies. Some state laws require that the perpetrator make a credible threat of violence against the victim. Others require only the stalker's conduct constitute an implied threat. Who was affected? In July 2017, the Pew Research Center's American Trends panel conducted a nationally represented survey of internet users experiencing with online harassment. The survey found that 41% of Americans have been personally subjected to harassing behavior online, and 66% have witnessed harassing behaviors directed at others. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans have been subjected to particularly severe forms of harassment online, such as physical threats, harassment over sustained period, sexual harassment, or stalking. Section 3, stalkers can use an anonymity of the internet to commit their crimes. Many victims of cyberstalking don't know their identity of their stalkers. That can make the fear more palpable and prosecution more unlikely. Some examples of cyberstalking include sending manipulative, threatening, lewd, or harassing emails from an assortment of email accounts, hacking into a victim's online accounts, such as banking or email, and changing the victim's settings and passwords, creating false online accounts on social networking and dating sites, impersonating the victim, or attempting to establish contact with the victim by using a false persona, posting messages to online bulletin boards, Discord, and discussion groups with the victim's personal information, such as home address, phone number, social security number. Posts may also be lewd and controversial and result in the victim receiving numerous emails, calls, or visits from people who read the post online. Signing up for numerous online mailing lists and services using a victim's name and email address. Cyberstalking is difficult to combat because the stalker could be in another state or sitting 3 cubicles away from the victim. Online anonymity can make it difficult to verify a stalker's identity, collect the necessary evidence for an arrest, and then trace the cyberstalker to a physical location. Social networking presents security issues for victims of stalking. A profile on a social networks might include information such as your email address, phone number, general address information, birthday, legal name, names of family members, and even minute-to-minute updates on your location. If a victim has a public profile, a stalker could easily access any information posted to the social networking account. Even with strong privacy settings or a private profile, a stalker might be able to access your account. A few of the ways this can be accomplished includes hacking your account, creating a false profile, and sending a friend request or follow request. The request may even appear to be from a known friend or a family member. Verify with your friends and family members that they own the account before accepting the request. Gaining access to the accounts of your already established connections, such as Facebook friends or Twitter followers. Often related to social media is another type of harassment called revenge porn. The online posting of explicit photos or videos of people without their permission. There are laws providing for criminal and civil liability for revenge porn, but victims may want to take action, first take action to get the material taken down as quickly as possible. Many social media sites have created policy for reporting and removing this kind of material from their websites. If you are a victim of stalking, consider suspending your social networking accounts until the stalking has been resolved. If you decide to continue to use social networking sites, here are a few tips to keep you safe. I'm not going to go into that. I already gone over what California Penal Code 646.9 was, just the last document. Federal law, this is where I want to get to. Federal law that deals with stalking and harassment, unauthorized information. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act creates civil and criminal liability for a person who obtains any information from any internet-connected computer without authorization. An additional civil and criminal remedy exists for those who access a computer with the intent to defraud. This statute could be useful in situations where a victim has been secretly recorded through his or her own computer, or where the perpetrator gained access to sexual photos or videos through unauthorized access to the victim's computer. Eavesdropping: if non-consensually published material was originally obtained by the perpetrators intercepting in electronic communication, he may be criminally and civilly liable. Interstate threats and extortion: a person who publishes or threatens to publish private photos or videos of another with the intention of forcing the victim to do something she would not have done otherwise may be charged with extortion. If the perpetrator communicated with the victim via interstate commerce channels, interstate stalking, section 2261A, makes it a federal crime to travel across state, tribal, or international lines to stalk another person with the intent to kill, injure, harass, or place under surveillance with the intent to kill, injure, harass, or intimidate another person. Furthermore, the travel must result in reasonable fear of death, serious bodily injury, or substantial emotional distress, either to a victim or a victim's family member, spouse, or intimate partner. Section 2261A makes it a federal crime to stalk another person across state, tribal, and international lines using regular mail, email, or the internet. The stalker must have the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, or cause substantial emotional distress, or to place a victim or a victim's family member, spouse, or intimate partner in fear of death or serious bodily injury. That's section 2261A. The rest of it doesn't really apply here. But what's important for us to understand is that what's been transpiring in the manosphere the last 36 hours has been heinous. An innocent woman has been the victim of California Penal Code 646.9. And the victimizer is getting a lot of support, and that's not something that we need to be really supporting. I can't really ride with that. I actually can't ride with that at all. It's unfortunate that this had to come to this. I've been quiet about these type of things because I don't really want to put myself in any sort of jeopardy. People have to understand that you cannot get away with this stuff anymore. This has now become a federal crime. So the doxing, it falls under 646.9 California Penal Code. You can serve up to 5 years for this now. Especially if you're a black male, they'll really throw the book at you. Let me drop the link in the chat because I see my brethren in the chat. And so we need to stop, we need to, isolate people who are involved in the violation of California Penal Code 646.9 and 22618. When the Boston Marathon bombing happened, right, I was here on the ground. I followed the case very diligently. And everybody who touched the younger brother's laptop at UMass Dartmouth, okay, I was at UMass Dartmouth when all this happened. Anybody who touched that laptop went to jail. And the investigation interrogated a lot of people, and they said, they asked the question, did you know the younger brother? Did you touch this laptop? Well, yeah, he told me to, plug it in and charge it up. But did you touch it though? Yeah, I had to plug it in. And okay, well, put your hands behind your back. You're going to jail. Everybody who had anything to do with that case went to jail, even if they had nothing to do with it directly. Just the fact that they knew him and touched the laptop during of the criminal investigation went to jail. That was it. I think most of those people served at least 9 months in jail, if I remember correctly. And so I don't want anything to do with people who get involved in all this type of stuff, man. We try to run a tight ship right over here on the Black Brain Trust. We don't really get into all of this type of stuff of violating the California Penal Code 646.9. We don't really get into all that. It's unfortunate that, innocent people are being electronically harassed, but this has to be called out. It would be culturally irresponsible for me not to say something. I watched Fresh the Bad Guy yesterday when AJ went in, and I sympathize with AJ, man. He definitely had a lot of passion in his heart, man. So he really went in on this. I don't involve myself in any of that type of back and forth, but I have to say something. As I said before, it'd be irresponsible for me not to say something in my profession. People are getting away with stuff, and people are buddy with them, and it's like, nah, you can't do that. Regardless of what anybody thinks, man, Black Gnostics is my dude. We agree to disagree on a couple of issues, but 99% of everything else we agree. I never had any ill will towards him, so we don't take sides on anything. But in this case, in this incident, I think that there's a legitimate case that can be pressed here, and it's up to the victims to actually take action on their behalf. Trish, what's on, fam?
Yeah, what's going on, Mike? I have to get up to speed of the events that transpired. I'm not exactly certain what was the precursor to these chain of events. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that really is irrelevant when you look at the involvement of individuals outside of the YouTube continuum, family members and the such. Even though the family members are adults, really had nothing to do with the situation. Mm-hmm. And just conceptually involving family members is, I really don't see why something like that would be brought into play. That particular tactic. Mm-hmm. Just the revelation of identities in general. I'm sure BGS has a camera if he wanted to, post this picture and, his specific information, he would have done so. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the information that he puts out, in particular, can be useful for people of a certain demographic, mm-hmm. Especially when we look at our actual trajectory. Mm-hmm. Some of the concepts that he touches on, especially when he has those his particular uploads, about the state of the economy within the U.S. and things that may affect future generations. We will be better served with that information in hand. Mm-hmm. And so there probably are entities working against him because it goes beyond black or white. It's more of a socioeconomic strata, and in order for wealth to have relevance, mm-hmm. there has to be a constituency without wealth. So mm-hmm. that way you have a sense of scale. Mm-hmm. So now I can look at the opposite end of the spectrum, and now my possessions, my wealth, my worth has relevance. When other people have that level of wealth, you're surrounded by individuals with that level of wealth. Your wealth, not only does it have less of an impact, your wealth is also threatened. Your well-being is threatened by individuals who seek to rise up and overthrow the regime. So it's better served for certain, I guess what you would call plutocracy or whatever you want to call it, mm-hmm. to suppress individuals from rising up. And so those individuals with knowledge, I'm sure they can access this information, and find out who he is. But you just have individuals who are threatened by what you would call FBA or ADOS, whatever terminology or acronym that you want to use. Mm-hmm. Individuals like that who are upwardly mobile represent a threat because now the burden of performance is necessary because now they actually have to compete. Historically, certain demographics haven't had to compete. So now with the presence and emergence of a demographic that was, traditionally not a threat, now becoming a threat, and information that can be used to further bolster their economic positioning, that information is crucially vital. And there's plenty of people that don't like the fact that you have an individual disseminating that information to the ADOS or FBA masses. And so putting that information out there can put that individual and that individual's loved ones at risk. And even beyond that, that's just not, I don't think that's the right way of doing things, because for certain individuals, they also, still work jobs. I have to actually censor a lot of the things that I say because I'm still gainfully employed, So if my information was put out there, it wouldn't be that much of a big deal, because I've actually, insulated myself by refraining from engaging in certain conversation and refraining from utilizing certain terminology that may be deemed offensive by certain groups. But at any rate, I still don't want my information out there. I don't want people showing up at my job and questioning me at my job. Individuals that I want to know who I am, I will inform them. If I want somebody to know where I live, or where I work, or what type of car I drive, what type of establishments I hang out, I would make that information publicly available. But I don't, and even if it's available on the internet, already, like, yeah, this individual's family member has a social media account, but that doesn't mean that you want that information disseminated to everyone, especially in a continuum outside the confines of that particular social media platform, because now you're mixing two different worlds. Even though there is some intersects, there is a degree of separation, and the fact that nobody knew who that person was. Nobody would even know to look for that person. And so I think that, especially with the, as we further integrate, digital mediums into our everyday lives, you will see legal definitions begin to emerge, as we see here by that penal code. And I expect to see more things in the future. But that shouldn't be the actual. We shouldn't base our morality over legal definitions, because if we base our morality solely on what the law determines to be right or wrong, then who are we as a people, when historically we haven't been well served by the law? We should formulate our own guidelines and our own standards, irregardless of what the law says. Because if we really sit and think about it, we can recognize that wasn't the right course of action. That particular pathway, regardless of whatever strife and animosity individuals have amongst each other, there's certain lines that shouldn't be crossed. And we don't need the law to let us know what those lines are. We don't need the law to let us know what our boundaries are. Just general etiquette. I mean, and I know common sense isn't common, but I think we've had these discussions before. I think various other platforms have had these discussions before. Nyla Says has had discussions about the doxing and the damages that doxing can have. I'm sure countless other YouTubers have had this particular discussion, yet we still see it occur.
Yeah, let me give Nyla the last 5 minutes, and then we can so I can close this out, because I gotta actually go.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys? How are you doing, Super Triz?
Good.
Greetings.
Yeah, greetings. I just want to say good stuff that you were sharing. I just wanted to just kind of, reiterate that it is not as easy as it looks. And I just hate that people kind of trivialize the whole experience. Like, a lot of people just is like, it's just YouTube, it's just the internet. But when the internet meets your family and your real life, it's not the same. I have to get, this, I have to get a whole nother social security number. I'm spending a couple of days a week going to different government offices to take care of business. And I go into chat rooms and these people think it's a game. They literally say, well, doxing's not illegal, but they don't even realize that it's other things that happen as a result of their doxing that's illegal. So it is what it is. But hopefully, if everybody, does what they should do and, stand up to it, maybe the examples will be made and the next group will be safe from it.
Yeah. I haven't gone over all the states, privacy laws, but this is just a primer into what is soon to become, I think, the norm. So people should actually check their states for their own local laws and statutes, and make sure you follow up on that. Again, this is unfortunate that it had to come down to this, but I figure I need to say something rather than to say nothing. But yeah, thank you all for joining us, man. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. Share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Peace and shalom.